Hey YouTube, what's going on? I logged in a couple days ago and noticed I passed 100 subscribers, which I know is not a big deal in the grand scheme of terms. A lot of the big channels have millions of subscribers, but for me, breaking to 100 was a big deal because my channel, I just use it for random uploading over the years, and only recently have I been able to use it seriously for these videos and for my music that I write. So it was a small little personal achievement for me. So I'm gonna take a celebratory shot of some new vodka I haven't tried before. Finlandia, obviously from Finland. Grapefruit. I've actually never seen this vodka before. I never tasted it. It was on sale, so I got it. So let's see how it tastes. Cheers to getting 100 subscribers. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. So, today we're going to talk about the Palestinian who took a truck and ran over 4 Israeli soldiers. I believe it was on the West Bank. Let me double check that. I should have checked that before. Oh, it was in Jerusalem, East Jerusalem. Okay, so it was in Jerusalem. So most people, most media outlets around the world, and especially Americans, the American media outlets are going to call this an act of terrorism. And I'm going to take the unpopular opinion and say it's not. Now, hold on. As soon as I say that, people will rush to attack me saying, you hate Jews, you are enabling Islamic terrorism, you're scum, you're not American, get out of this country. And it's just like, whoa, 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 whoa. Wait for me to, you're not even letting me explain my position. People, when they hear something that is considered unacceptable to say in a certain society, they try to shame you, insult you, silence you before you even have a chance to explain yourself. How are you ever going to change public opinion? How are you ever going to come up with new ideas if you say anything different? People automatically shut you down. The reason why I say it is not an act of terrorism because the person ran over 4 Israeli soldiers, not civilians. There's a huge difference. You cannot commit terrorism against soldiers, especially during a time of war. I know it is not a hot war right now between Israeli and Palestinians, but they are always fighting each other in one way or the other. They flare up every couple of years, but they are in a state of conflict. Israel is actively oppressing the Palestinians, taking away their rights. It is an active war occupation situation. It's not like the Israelis just minding their own business, just strumming along the street, doing absolutely nothing to Palestinians whatsoever, and all of a sudden the Palestinian just goes apeshit and goes to a truck and runs people over. No, that's not the situation at all. I know that's what the American media wants you to believe. Let's talk about the American media. The reason why so many Americans have a warped perception of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict is because they get all of their information almost exclusively from the mainstream media. If the mainstream media wanted to fool you, how would they do it? Well, they know that the vast majority of Americans get their sources from all international events, almost exclusively from the mainstream media, because Americans don't travel. You can't travel to all these places and learn all these things in person. You hear them from reporters. So, thinking logically here, if you're the mainstream media and you wanted to push a narrative that was not related to reality whatsoever, it's very easy for you to do so. All you have to do is make up these fake reports and say half-truths and change the meaning of terms and words and everything, and you can easily fool the vast population of America because they get almost all of their information from the few mainstream media outlets. All the mainstream media, you see thousands upon thousands of news websites throughout the day. Almost all of them are owned by only 4 or 5 companies. Okay, so this is only 4 or 5 people making decisions that affect almost all the information that the random American gets. Now, personally, me, I don't watch any mainstream media at all. I do not. Well, first of all, I hardly watch TV in the first place, but I never get my news from TV because it's all bullshit. It's 99% complete fucking bullshit. They twist every single little fact to suit their narrative. That they did a report that people who watch Fox News are more ill-informed about the world than people didn't watch any news at all. I get all my news from the internet. I read almost every single website on a source that's on a topic that I want to learn about. So I get everyone's point of view and make my own decision about what I believe and not believe. I don't listen to editorials. I don't listen to people giving their opinion. I just read the facts and figure it out for myself. But we're getting off topic here. So how can you say that attacking soldiers that are killing your neighbors, torturing your family, kidnapping them in the dead of night, and torturing them into signing false crimes, how could you say that fighting it back against those soldiers is terrorism? Now you might say, Robert, the Israelis don't do that. What are you talking about? You're just making up shit. They do. The American media doesn't tell you about it. Look it up. It is all on the internet for anyone with internet access, with the vast majority of Americans have access to the internet, for you to see. But the thing is, you have to take that step to look for the information first, and most Americans just don't bother. It doesn't concern them. Who cares what's happening in the Middle East right now? It doesn't concern me going to the office and going to work. So most people don't care. But if you look at the truth of what the Israelis are doing to the Palestinians, you can see why the Palestinians have a rational, logical reason to fight back against the soldiers that are taking away their rights and killing them. I mean, I don't understand why Americans can sit there and watch Star Wars, for example. The rebels are fighting against the Empire, and that's a good thing to do. Those are the good guys. They're the underdogs fighting against the people that are taking away their rights, whatever. But soon as the rebels are Muslim and the Empire are Jewish, and suddenly, no, that's bad. No, you can't. You're not allowed to defend yourself. If you're Arab and the person attacking you is Jewish, you're not allowed to defend yourself, because that's terrorism. You just sit there and die. And you'd be like, right, Robert, the Israelis don't kill Palestinians. They only do that when they attack them. What are you talking about? Again, you have a warped perception of the conflict because you only get your sources from a few media outlets that can easily fool you, because you don't get your information from anywhere else. The average American has not read a history book about the Middle East. The average American has not read a policy paper detailing all of the actions that go in the Middle East. The average American has not been to the Middle East. The average American has not volunteered for an NGO that does work in the Middle East. So with your limited amount of getting information, it's easy to warp your mind. But you can understand why a Palestinian would do this if you would picture it happening in America. So let me take you through a day of the average Palestinian and picture you going through this day in America. And you can see why a person would take up arms, or if Palestinians aren't even allowed to have weapons. So we'll get that in a second. So you wake up in your house, which is falling under repairs. It's damaged, the roof's leaking, whatever, but you're not allowed to fix your own house because the Israelis control the building and construction permits in your area, and they just don't feel like giving you one because you're Arab, because you're Muslim. There's no reason why. You go to the office, you say, can I have a permit to have some construction workers come in and fix my roof? I'm like, no. You're like, why not? It's like, get the fuck out of here, we're going to shoot you. So you wake up in your dilapidated house. You want to get to work. If you would take the fastest road, you can get to work in 25 minutes. But that's a Jewish-only road. And you were born in the wrong religion. You were born in the wrong skin color. So you have to take the side road that takes 2 hours to get to your work. If only you were Jewish, you could take the Jewish-only road. Past the Jewish-only apartments that are government built, and you can get to work. Then you're driving through the non-Jewish road, which even Christians have to drive through. Christians in America don't understand that Palestinian Christians are persecuted just as much as Palestinian Muslims are. So if you're a Christian and you're hoping that the good Christian Americans are helping you, no, that's not the case. You're not allowed to repair your church. You're not allowed to drive on the good road. You're stuck with the Muslims driving on the road. It takes 2 hours to get to work. So you're driving for 2 hours. There's a checkpoint. Why? Just because they feel like it. They're random checkpoints. There's no reason. So it takes you another 2 hours. So it takes you 4 hours to get to work. You're late, so you don't make as much money. While you're at work, an Israeli soldier just decides to come in and smash your shop up, knock down the stands, beat up your employee, You can't do anything about it because the minute you try to resist, you can shoot you in the face and say you're a terrorist, and then the whole world's not going to care. You're going to say, Robert, this doesn't happen that often. You're just making up shit. You're just making up a story that doesn't happen. This happens every single day in the West Bank. Every single day. But the media doesn't report on it because it contradicts their narrative. Why would they report on something that makes a Jew look bad and a Muslim look good? That's all they look at. How they view an action doesn't depend on the action. It depends on the identity of the perpetrator and the victim. Unlike most majority of Americans, I condemn terrorism no matter who is perpetrating it and no matter who the victims are. I know, I have this weird idea that's called equality, where I don't care the identity of the actor or the person being acted upon. If it's terrorism, if it's occupation, if it's taking away your rights, I condemn it no matter what. You can look at my earlier videos. I railed on Saudi Arabia for taking away their citizens' human rights. I railed on Nigeria. I railed on Yemen. All Muslim countries. So if you're saying that I am supporting Islamic terrorism, well then why the fuck am I condemning all these Muslims all around the world? Because I don't give a shit what religion they are. If they're oppressing their civilians or other countries' civilians, I condemn it, no matter what. People look at the truck attack as a barbaric act because he's running people over. Well, if the Palestinians had tanks and artillery and jet fighters and stealth bombers like Israel did, well, they were surely as fuck as to use them, but they don't because they aren't even allowed to own guns. Yet the right-wingers cling to the Second Amendment. Rightfully so. It's the best amendment. But who they view is worthy of the Second Amendment depends on their race and religion. See, me, I don't give a shit about race and religion. So everyone across the world, no matter what their race or what their religion are, they are allowed to have weapons to defend themselves, guns to defend themselves. But right-wingers look at the Middle East, say, Jews are allowed to have guns. You see pictures of Jews carrying guns in Israel practically everywhere. There's no problem with that. But when Palestinians come along, oh no, they're Arab, they're Muslim, they're not allowed to have guns. So Israel, it's okay if you take away their rights to own guns. They don't believe in rights universal. I believe in universal human rights, where no matter what your race or religion, you are allowed to have these rights, no matter the circumstances, always 100%. But Americans don't do that. Once again, their view on our right dependent on the identity of the person that is receiving this right. Well, if you are judging something and the only criteria you're judging it on is race, then what does that make you? A racist. That is the only definition of racism, is judging someone on your race. You look at someone, they're white, you say, you have the right to Second Amendment. You have the right to own guns to defend yourself. You look at someone else, he's brown, no, you don't have the right to defend yourself. You don't have the right to have guns. That is racist. People take my support of Palestinians to be able to own guns to defend themselves and to use guns in self-defense as enabling Palestinian terrorism. I'm sorry. Look through this entire video and tell me when I said that it's okay for Palestinians to commit terrorism. I condemn terrorism no matter who perpetrates it. A Palestinian attacking Israeli soldiers as taking away his rights and taking away his right to defend themselves and killing and injuring his neighbors and family, that is completely different than a suicide bomber walking into an Israeli cafe and blowing himself up and killing civilians. People put all of these actions into Palestinian terrorism when, no, they're completely different. Why do you support people able to use weapons to defend themselves in war in other places, but soon when it comes to Israel and Palestine, no, that's you totally change your view on the action depending on the identity of the people involved. My hatred of Israel is not because they're Jewish. There's lots of other Jews I've met throughout the years that also condemn Israel. I hate them because of their actions. I hate Saudi Arabia because of their actions. I hate India because of their actions. I hate Mexico because of their actions. All these people, different races, different religions, I do not like their governments because they oppress their own civilians or other people's civilians. I don't care what color they are. I don't care what religion they are. So when people say if you support Palestinians' right to defend themselves, then that means you hate Jews. No, the two have nothing to do with each other. I support a Jew's right to defend themselves against a Muslim. I support a Jew's right to defend themselves against a Hindu. Like, it doesn't fucking matter. They try to put race and religion to everything. Every single thing. And they can't understand that there are some decent people in the world who say, I don't care what skin color you are. I don't care who you pray to. You are allowed these rights, and you are now not allowed to take other people's rights, no matter what race or religion they are either. I know, it's such a novel concept, and people just, their minds are blown when I say this. It's just like, I am following the Constitution. This was written hundreds of years ago. This is not a new concept. Lots of Americans support Israel because they feel that is the Christian thing to do. Well, that's funny, because supporting Israel is supporting the taking away of human rights of Christians in the Middle East. I know it's mind-blowing whenever I pull out these stats showing that the Israelis take away the rights of Palestinian Christians. You know, they don't allow them to repair their churches. They beat them up in the streets. They arrest them and torture them and signing false confessions to put them in jail. They burn kids with cigarettes. I mean, just all of this shit has been well documented throughout the years. And they're just dumbfounded. They're like, Jews oppressing Christians? That doesn't fit my narrative. That doesn't fit what MSNBC told me. That can't be true. No. This human rights report, that's made up. Everything's made up. All the stats, all the people involved, all the graphs, all of the well-documented cases. No, that's all BS. I believe the 10-second sound bit that some random fuck told me on MSNBC, and not this human rights report. Okay, yeah, that makes perfect fucking sense. Yep. Believe this guy who has every incentive to lie versus a human rights report. These human rights reports have been going on for decades. They've documented human rights abuses since the creation of Israel in 1948. So this is half a century's worth of human rights violations. No, all that bullshit. That's hilarious. That is so fucking hilarious. Imagine it from your point of view. Imagine Israeli soldiers. Well, no, let's pretend it's happening in the U.S. Let's take the Russians. The big boogeyman of the year now. Let's pretend Russia invaded the U.S. and Russian soldiers are going around your street, kicking in your door, wrecking up your house, beating up your relatives, kidnapping them, shooting people dead in the streets. That happens all the time in Israel. That happens all the time. And people act like it doesn't because they don't see it on the news. Imagine from your point of view, if you weren't allowed to have guns to fight back, what would you fight with? You would fight back with knives. That's why there's so many Palestinian knife attacks. It's because that is the only weapon that they can use. It's not barbaric to use a knife or truck. They are doing the rational, logical thing because they're fighting back with whatever you have. You are delegitimizing the poor man of the world, his right to defend himself, because you're saying only warfare with jet fighters and artillery and drone strikes, only that type of warfare is acceptable. If you fight with a truck or a knife, no, that's barbaric, that's terrorism. Doesn't matter if you're attacking soldiers, that's just completely barbaric. I'm sorry. Have you seen a drone strike? Have you seen jet fighters just pummel the shit out of a marketplace? How is that any less barbaric than someone running over someone with a knife? Running someone over with a knife. Running someone over with a truck or stabbing someone with a knife. It is completely preposterous to think that killing people with artillery and drone strikes is somehow more humane and more acceptable than fighting with a truck or a knife. Again, if you gave the Palestinians would gladly use jet fighters and artillery and tanks if you would give them some, but they don't have any, so they fight with whatever they've got. Now you're going to say, okay, well, Hamas, for example, they shoot rockets, they attack Israelis from civilian populations, so that's terrorism. Okay, I'm sorry, but point out one guerrilla insurgency throughout the entirety of history that has not fought from civilian populations. Again, if Hamas had the money to build these huge military bases and these big aircraft carriers and all that stuff, they would gladly fight from those, but they don't, because Israelis occupy them for decades and steal their money and oppress them. I mean, it's just, you're taking away the oppressed people of the world. You're taking away their right to defend themselves. Because you're saying only if you have an aircraft carrier can you attack from the sea. If only you have a designated military base that can easily be destroyed by an airstrike, only then can you attack the people that are occupying you and oppressing you. The American insurgency. Where did the Americans attack the British? From towns. Civilian towns. Because they didn't have the money, they didn't have the capacity to build huge military bases until later in the war when they were winning. But at the initial stages, they were hiding weapons in civilian houses. They were attacking from town squares and towers of buildings and rooftops of buildings. I mean, so somehow that's okay for Americans to do against the British. But when the Palestinians do the exact fucking thing, that's terrorism. Once again, you're saying, if you're a guerrilla insurgency, you don't have the right to defend yourself. You don't have the right to defend your family. You don't have the right to defend your rights because you can attack from a sophisticated military base that takes millions, if not billions of dollars to build. That gives the rich countries of the world, China, Russia, US, the right to just oppress all of these poor states throughout the world, and the oppressed states can't fight back because, well, they don't have huge military bases or aircraft carriers or huge legions of tanks or anything. I mean, that's just the most preposterous thing I ever heard of. I mean, it's just, if you're sitting in your own house, where do you keep your guns? In your house. Is that terrorism? Why is it terrorism when a Palestinian keeps his guns in his house? I mean, the double standards. It's a double standard depending on the race or religion of the person. It's illogical because you change your view of an action depending on the identity of the person. I mean, it's completely fucking retarded from start to finish. That is why, in conclusion, I don't have a problem with the Palestinian running over 4 Israeli soldiers. If you ran over 4 civilians, then yes, I would absolutely condemn it. That is act of terrorism. Those civilians were not oppressing you at all. They were not doing any harm against you. There is no logical reason to attack them. That is terrorism. If he ran over civilians, but he didn't. Yes, I acknowledge that there are many other attacks that Palestinians have committed that are against Israeli civilians, and that is terrorism. Just, if you say this video is support terrorism, just focus in on this 1 second when I say that attacking civilians, no matter what the race or religion of them, is terrorism. Palestinians killing Israeli civilians is terrorism. Israelis killing Palestinian civilians is terrorism. This is not rocket science. This is so fucking easy to understand. But Americans can't figure it out because they can't see past race and religion.